First of all, I would like to thank you for leaving all the comments and questions for my videos. I would like to dedicate this video and the next one to respond to a few questions and comments so everyone can benefit from the answers. If you like this kind of episode where I answer your specific questions, make sure you comment with your questions. Subscribe and hit the bell for valuable knowledge. Number 1, buyer's market. A few weeks ago, I published this video with an update on our housing crisis. On the supply side, Toronto and Ontario in general are very behind in building new homes because of the slow sales. On the demand side, the government will maintain the same target for the next 3 years, around 500,000 immigrants per year. So we are going to face a housing shortage down the road. Here's Paul's comment. According to everyone else on YouTube that uses real published statistics, unlike this video, we are in a buyer's market. That means there is supply, so you are wrong. A buyer's market and housing supply going forward are two different things, and it is important that you understand the difference. On October the 1st, before any official report came out, I have already said that we are in buyer market, just based on market observation. But what is buyer's market? The simple way to put it is there are more sellers than buyers. So buyers have a bigger negotiation power. But does that mean we have an oversupply? Not necessarily. If there are many vacant units sitting on the market, no one wants to buy them and no one wants to rent them either, then we have an oversupply. However, that is not the case with the current Toronto market. At the moment, the majority of sales are investors. In many cases, the rents they are collecting is not enough to cover the high mortgage payment after the interest rate hikes. So obviously, we won't expect to see many investor buyers. As for end users, the high interest rate is discouraging them from home ownership. And with the market uncertainties, many of them prefer to rent instead of own. So we don't see many buyers either. And we end up with more sellers than buyers. It is a buyer's market in terms of resale. The majority of unsold units in the resale market are not vacant. They are actually tenanted. In some cases, the investors are purposely leaving the unit vacant after the tenants left because it is just easier to sell without a tenant. But it is definitely not like the market is flooded with vacant units and no one wants to live in them. I also have some sellers who tried to sell vacants for a couple months but didn't get the price they wanted, so they just leased out their unit again within a couple of weeks. You see, the demand for housing is coming from the rental market. So yes, we are in buyer's market, but at the same time, we are also in a landlord's market. That's why you hear a lot of news about steep rent inflation. Now that we are into winter, the rental market is much slower than in the summer, and the rent is not as high, but we are still leasing out units every day. It is not necessary for housing demand to come from the ownership market. The current high interest rate environment just favors rental over ownership. It doesn't matter whether it is rent or own. It is a demand to live in a housing unit. So don't confuse a buyer's market with housing supply. Number 2, rent control. Percy said, don't forget Ontario has rent control. Most rentals are below market. Why don't you speak about that? It is true that for units first occupied before November 15, 2018, they are subject to rent control, which means you can only raise the rent for around 2% or so every year. If you are like me who gave a rent discount during the peak of COVID, the rent you are collecting right now is probably way below market. For a large studio in Regent Park, I'm only collecting $1,347 per month, which is way below the market rent of $2,000. Yep, almost $700 below market rent. There's a flip side to this though. If your unit was first occupied before 2018, chances are you bought the unit at a much lower price compared to today's price. So your mortgage payment should be relatively low even with the high interest rate. For my studio unit, it was first occupied in 2015 and I bought it at pre-construction for $210,000. That being said, is there a way to bring the rent up to the market rent? The only legitimate reason to get your tenants to move out is to sell the unit to an end user. But before you put the unit up for sale, you can let the tenants know that you plan to sell the unit to an end user, in which case the tenants would have to move out and find another unit at market rent. Then you can offer them a rent that's $200 below the market rent. It would be a win-win situation if they agree to it. They still enjoy a discount compared to market rent, and you bring your rent much closer to market without selling the unit. We have had some success with this strategy, but of course, there are always tenants who feel entitled to the low rent. In that case, the only way out is to sell the units to an end user. Investors are unlikely to take over your unit because the rent is significantly below market. If the low rent is really bothering you, you can consider trading the unit for a newer resale unit without rent control. Yes, you would have to sell low in the current market, but you can also buy low with quite some choices in the resale market. In next week's episode, I am going to answer some questions related to developers' rights to increase the price after a binding sales agreement, and the buyer's rights to back out and cancel the purchase. If you are interested in the discussion, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss it next week. If you have any question that you'd like me to answer, comment below and let me know.